Hello and welcome to today's math lesson. Today we are going to be solving equations with variables on both sides of the equal sign. So my objective or my learning target is I will be able to solve equations in one variable that contain a variable and terms on both sides of the equal sign. So we may need to use the distributive property and combining like terms. All right, so let's start off with a simple one here. So go ahead and copy this down, and remember you can stop this video at any point in time. So there is more than one way to do these, but I am going to always combine my letters. Okay, combine variables, which are just letters. Okay, that is always going to be my first step, is to get my letters together. So I see a 7N on one side and I see a 5N on the other side. And what I typically do is I move the smaller coefficient. So I move the smaller number or the smaller coefficient. So 5 is smaller than 7, so I'm going to move the 5. And because this is a plus 5 and it's on the opposite side of the equal sign, I'm going to do the opposite operation and I am going to subtract 5N from both sides. And make sure you put it under its like term. So 5N is going to be like with 7N. And now we're just going to do our math. 7N minus 5N is 2N. Then we still have our minus 2. And what happens over here is 5N minus 5N. This just cancels out, and we're left with 6. So now, by combining like terms and getting my letters together, moving that smaller one, it is now a two-step equation. So to get N by itself, I'm going to add 2 to both sides. Again, I show my work. So 2N equals, and 6 plus 2 is 8. Now this says 2 times N, so the opposite of times is divide. So I'm going to divide both sides by 2, and N equals 4. N equals 4. Okay, so my first thing I'm going to do is combine my variables, and I'm always going to do the smaller one. And we're going to do this by either adding or subtracting. And then we can make different decisions as the problem goes on, but this is how I'm going to start all of these problems. All right, number 2, I'm going to draw my line down the middle. And if you look, we have X's on one side and X's on the other side. So the first thing I'm going to do is combine my letters. And I'm going to do that by either adding or subtracting. So I'm going to either add or subtract. Okay, I like to move the smaller number. Okay, so 2X is smaller. So I'm going to subtract 2X. And remember, you have to put it all the way on the other side of this line. So minus 2X minus 2X. What happens here is these cancel, and we have negative 5 equals, and 4X minus 2X is 2X, and then we still have our minus 1. All right, the numbers that are by that letter X are 2 and negative 1. So I am going to add 1 to both sides. Make sure you guys use your calculator so you get these correct answers here. So negative 5 plus 1 is a negative 4. And then we still have 2X and negative 1 plus 1. This cancels out. Now that says 2 times X. So I'm going to divide both sides by 2. And negative 4 divided by 2 is a negative 2. So X is negative 2. All right, same thing here. So we have letters on both sides. I have a 5A and a 3A. So I want to get my letters together. Okay, letters together. That is my first goal, is to get my letters together. And I'm going to either do it by adding or subtracting. So this time, and I always like to move my smaller number. So this time, 5a and negative 3a. Well, negative 3a is smaller. And remember, we have to do the opposite operation. So I'm going to add 3a to both sides. So 5a plus 3a is 8a. Then I still have my negative 10. And I have my 14. And these guys canceled out. Okay, now I need to focus on the numbers that are by the letter. And because this is minus 10, I'm going to add 10 to both sides. These are going to cancel out. So I have 8a equals, and 14 plus 10 is 24. All right, I'm going to divide by 8. So a is 3. All righty. To solve more complicated equations, we first may need to simplify by using the distributive property or by combining like terms. So these next couple of problems are going to be a little more complicated, and we're going to have to do some of the other things that we have already learned. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do here is distribute. Okay, so my first thing is going to be to distribute because I want to get rid of those parentheses. So 3 times w is 3w, and 3 times 1 is plus 3. Okay, now the second thing I like to do is get my letters together. Okay, letters together. So how I'm going to do that is 3w and 2w. Okay, 2w is smaller. They're on opposite sides, so I have to do the opposite operation. So I'm going to subtract 2w. Ooh, and I like this one because 3w minus 2w is just 1w plus 3. And over here, these w's are going to cancel out, and we have 7. So now we need to move that 3 away from the w. So this says plus 3. So we are going to subtract 3. Now remember, 1w can be written as just w, and 3 minus 3 is 0, and 7 minus 3 is 4. So w equals 4. All right, so we did distributing first, then we got our letters together. All right, hoofdas. We've got parentheses on both sides, so it looks like I need to distribute on both sides before I do anything. So 2 times n is 2n. 2 times 4 is 8. Okay, same thing on the other side. 3 times n is 3n. And 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. All right, now I want to get my letters together. So I have a 2n and a 3n. Okay, I'm going to move the smaller one. So I'm going to subtract 2n. So these are going to cancel out. And I have 8 equals n minus 6. Okay, n minus 6. So to move the 6, I need to add 6 to both sides. And I get 14 equals n. Okay, so we had to do some distributing first, and then we combined our variables. All right. So this one, I believe, is going to be one of the more tougher ones that we have to do. So let's see what's going on here. First, I want to distribute because I want to get rid of those parentheses. So 9k. Now negative 2 times 4 is negative 8. Now negative 2 times negative 2 is going to be minus 4k. That is incorrect. A negative times a negative is a positive 4k. And then we still have 7k plus 16. All right, holy buckets. I've got a k here, a k here, and a k here. So what I'm going to do with first are the k's that are on the same side. So that says 9k plus 4k is 13k. So when they're on the same side, I do the exact math that they're telling me to do. All right, now when I look at my k's, they're on opposite sides. So now I'm going to do opposite operations, and I am going to move the smaller one. 7's smaller than 13. So I'm going to subtract 7k. So I have 6k minus 8. And over here, these k's cancel out, and we have 16. All right, now we need to move that 8, because that says negative 8. I am going to add 8. So 6k equals 24. Now that says 6 times k, so the opposite of times is divide. Now I'm running out of room here, but 6 divided by 6 is 1, so we end up with k. 1k is just k. And 24 divided by 6 is 4. So we did distributing first, and then I had k's on the same side, so you just have to do what the math says to do. And because that was a plus 4k, we're going to go 9k plus 4k. Then when you go on opposite sides, that's when you do your opposite operation. And we ended up with k equals 4. All right, we have 2 last problems here, and we're going to just start practicing solving for a variable. They want us to get a letter by itself. And in this one, they want us to get y by itself. Well, what is the only thing by y that we need to move away? Looks like we have an f over here. And that f is positive, so remember we have to do the opposite operation. So because that's a positive f, we are going to subtract f from both sides. Now, a and f are not like terms, so we cannot combine them. So I just have to write a minus f, and over here these f's cancel out, and we're left with y. Do we have y all by itself like they asked us to? And we sure do, so y equals a minus f. I know we like to give just a plain old number, but in this particular case we can't, because all we have are letters. So y equals a minus f. All right, let's try one more of these of solving for a variable. Oops. I want you to solve for x. Get x all by itself. Okay, so to get x by itself, the first thing we need to do is move that w. And because that says minus w, we are going to do the opposite operation. So we are going to add w to both sides. So these are going to cancel out, and we're left with 2x. Now, 5 and w are not like terms, so we can write 5 plus w. All right, it still doesn't say x equals, we have 2x. So how do we move that 2? Is we have to divide both sides by 2. So these 2's cancel out, and we're left with x equals. Now, there's no math. Nothing can simplify here. So we have to leave this as 5 plus w divided by 2. All right, that should be the end of it, and we should be ready for our homework. Good luck on your homework.